a week, and on fireworks night we do 8, so we have quite a margin for backup for safety. There are 16 6-volt batteries producing 48 amps under your feet here.
So where do you go to charge?
See the L cords?
Oh, right there? You got power right down there?
Yeah, it is perfect. This is a Duffy made in Southern California for the Newport Beach area, the inland waters, and it's 22 feet long. The rudder and the propulsion are all one unibody, so I can do this. I can turn on my own length. This is all we'll be doing for the first 2.5 minutes of the tour. So, where is everybody from? Where are you from, sir?
From Vancouver.
Vancouver, very good. And you folks?
Portland.
Portland? Oh, all from Portland. Great.
Texas.
Wonderful. Welcome.
All the way from Victoria.
All the way from here.
Do you know, I hate it when there are Victoriaites on. You know why? Because you from Texas could ask me a question, I could give you any answer. You wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But these guys will. However, they're going to answer our first quiz, and it's a trick question. What's the total acreage of Butchart Gardens? Total 130 acres in total. There is a test, locals, that you have to pass to get in. You can have a, 70% is required.
So the original garden is 55.
The original gardens is 55.
The developed part is 55? And the rest
What's
is
in bloom is 55. The rest is houses, are 24 greenhouses. All of our carpentry, electrical, plumbing, welding shops, all of the storage barns for all of the equipment. They're hidden in the forest. You'll never see them. And that's because Mrs. Butchart, when she was alive, did not want your enjoyment of the show garden to be interrupted. And we are a show garden. That's why only the roses and a few ceremonial plants and flowers are labeled. We're not botanical. So I'm going to take you down to the site of the historic remains of the cement wharf and part of the factory. The Butcharts were in the cement business from 1880 forward. They bought this property on the left in 1902 because it had a very rich Portland limestone rock quarry on it. You now know it as the Sunken Gardens. Oh, we're catching on here, class. Good. You thought you were taking a tour. This is a history exam. Yeah. It's because it had the limestone quarry. Because they're in the cement business. They make cement the same way as the Romans did thousands of years ago. You take crushed up limestone rock, mix it with clay and water, cook it to a very high temperature, cool it, pulverize that into a fine white powder called cement, and then you ship it to the concrete workers, and they add rebar and water and aggregate to it, and they make concrete high-rises, bridges, elevator shafts.
It's like wood, but it's actually...
In fashion to look like wood. A lot of those cement bowls are they're over 100 years old. The road that you came in on, Benvenuto Road, the concrete that's a concrete highway. The cement to make that concrete road was donated 89 years ago.
Wow, it's so good.
Yep, just the expansion joints, so they're bump as you go in, and the municipality of Central Saanich has added a little. So we're actually entering now the provincial marine park called Gowan Todd Marine Park. It was made into a provincial park 18 years ago. We sold off part of our property, and I'll show you where that is denoted at the end of the trip here. So the property on the right is a 4,000 acre hiking park. And the property on the left is Butchart Gardens. Because this is a provincial marine park, not unlike many of them up and down our coast in British Columbia, you can camp here, as this person is doing, in the designated area. Stay for 2 weeks, no charge. Just don't throw any gray water or black water into our pristine inlet. So just for the 130 acre property, because we have 24 greenhouses.
Oh, okay.
We start all of the annuals from seed, sterilized seed. And we'll transplant the fall garden when the summer garden gets a bit tired.
And when is that, really?
It varies. The head gardeners will know when the right time is. It
October.
varies. It's certainly no later than October, sir. Depending, if we could have another warm Indian summer like we did last year. This happened exactly the same way last summer. We had 90-degree weather, 31, 32 in August, in the middle of August. Then it cooled right down where it's supposed to be, which is today. 74 degrees is our average summer temperature. 22 degrees Celsius.
So they do remove the spent flowers
Yep.
and replant.
And overnight replant the,
No.
No kidding.
and they'll get ready as soon as that's done. They'll do the same thing for the winter, and then the spring, and then the summer, and then keep going all the way through.
So they don't source their flowers from anywhere. They all grow their own flowers. They
Yes.
don't source it. They don't go to any other.
They don't winter over any of them?
But yes, they take the dahlia or dahlia, depending on, you say tomato, I say tomato. They take the dahlia tubers out and store them. And we don't plant everything from seed or start everything from seed. We do cuttings as well. You can, the locals will know this. You can take a greenhouse tour. It lasts about 3 to 4 hours in November, on Saturdays and Sundays in November. No extra charge, but you do have to register. It's that popular. And they'll share all the, well, they'll share some of the secrets with you for you. That's wonderful.
So how cold does the winter get here?
I'm sensing you want Fahrenheit, right? 38 to 42 degrees. 5 to 8 degrees Celsius. We do get frost. We've had snow. 2008 we had about 2.5 feet, gang, in Victoria. Yeah, about then. And then of course the snowfall of the century was in 96. 96. In my yard, it snowed 5 feet. I couldn't open any of the doors of my house.
Oh,
No
my
kidding.
Yeah, we were snowbound for 24 hours. I dug myself out through an upper bedroom window and then started shoveling the driveway. That's so rare. That was the worst in 90 years. It came from Seattle, by the way. Gotta blame somebody.
So you should be okay for your duration.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's going to get me is an earthquake. It's not a matter of if in, it's when. It's overdue by 50 years right now.
Is that right?
And we sit on the San Andreas Fault, which runs up from Southern California all the way up to
So
Alaska.
that fault comes all the way up here?
Absolutely, sir. The two tectonic plates are having mini earthquakes every single day. Every single day they're measuring them. We're going to have it pretty soon.
The big one.
So they're training the kids now in school about tsunami drills and so on, because we'll have tsunamis. Downtown Victoria will be awash. It'll be gone.
But it's interesting. People aren't afraid. I mean, that's where they've lived and that's where they live, right?
Well, it's like the Mississippi River when the Delta floods. Guess where they rebuild again? The exact same places they got flooded out on. I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Straight ahead is your first glimpse of what's left of the historic cement wharf. Vancouver Portland Cement Company's wharf, built 109 years ago in 1903. Made from cement from the factory, which was just on the shore, on the beach. Those concrete pilings are 30 feet long, driven in by a steam pile driver 109 years ago.
Really?
And then a wooden deck was put on top. We took that off in 1957 when we finished making cement here. Acted as fenders so that the freighters would not destroy themselves, because they'd lose against that concrete. And they also serve a dual purpose for the purple martin nesting boxes. These birds come every April, have their babies, and the whole colony flies back in September. And since the advent of GPS tracking tags instead of bird bands, we know conclusively this colony comes from Brazil every year.
Really?
And flies back to Brazil.
Oh, how wonderful.
No kidding.
So I'm going to let you, sitting on my side, the starboard side, have a look in a minute. I'll spin the boat around so that everybody can... You'll see babies' heads sticking out of there. They're all numbered because they're doing a study.
And in October they'll start going home, huh?
September, yep.
What's the name of the bird again?
Purple martin.
Oh, Marty.
They're very good for the environment. They eat their weight a day in insects, mosquitoes, moths, and dragonflies. We don't have a lot of mosquitoes in southern Vancouver Island, mainly because of our wind. I'll bet you if you have downtown accommodation, you don't have screens on your windows. Think about it.
No, we don't.
Yeah. Don't need them here. Just like the average residents here, well, let's test our Victorians. Do you have air conditioning in your home? No, nor do I. You have to have it custom built. It's so temperate. It's semi-Mediterranean.
The hotel we're in doesn't have it.
No, you don't need it. We live in God's country. It's just so placid, gentle climate all year long.
That's why the big earthquake's going to miss you.
Well,
Shut out to the ocean.
I like your philosophy a lot. Can you hang around for the next 50 years? Because we're overdue, like I said. So the workers, where this lady is in the straw hat and the plum-colored top, that's starting right there is where all the workers' accommodation was, right past the three-masted sailboat, all the way down to Todd Creek. 200 people lived in the cement village and supplied labor. See the smokestack? I'll turn it this way so you get a better view.
Oh, right there, right behind you.
Oh.
So the plant was right here.
Right there. So think of it. It was 100 yards from the factory to the cement wharf to ship this very, very heavy product. And from there it went to Seattle, Vancouver, went across in the trains. However, when San Francisco had its earthquake in 1906, it's only about a 3-day run down there or less. 2.5 days a freighter could make it to San Francisco. Load up, go out here, going around the front of Victoria, straight south, and in San Francisco. And it was rebuilt largely from cement from this factory.
San Francisco was after the,
Yeah, after the earthquake.
After the fire.
Well, it was the fire that destroyed but it was what set the fire, what caused the fire was the earthquake. And has anybody ever traveled through the Peace Arch in near, on the way to Bellingham and so on? That Peace Arch is made 100% from cement from this factory.
Really?
Little piece of trivia. There's even a plaque there that tells you. Yep.
Well, now in Portland, Oregon, there's a company called Portland Cement.
Portland Cement is the largest purveyor of cement in the world.
And didn't it start here?
No. We stole the name. Portland actually is not Portland, Oregon. It's not Portland, England. It's the type of rock. Portland limestone rock.
Oh.
Because the Roach Harbor has a
Yes, they
lime
do.
kiln too.
Yep. See, the glaciers that carved this beautiful fjord out millions of years ago left all the limestone deposits and this granite rock that you see the inner harbor made of. All that beautiful granite rock around the Empress Hotel and the Parliament buildings, just left by the glaciers. So throughout the Pacific Northwest, virtually every piece of coastline has limestone in it. Some had bigger deposits than others. We had a huge deposit. The main deposit here kept our factory going for 7.5 years. Then we had a secondary one on what's called Wallace Drive. It's now a reservoir. We have a lease on that and we pump our water from it. But around the corner, a place called Bamberton is a competing cement works in the same period of time. He became the president and principal shareholder of that. He died in '43. They stopped making cement in BC Cement Company in Bamberton in '68. So for another 2 or 3 decades, he continued to make profit, even though he wasn't alive, from his shares and the interest in that. So cement was very big here on the
Now,
coast.
when did this plant close?
1957.
57. So this one up here stayed open another 10 years.
It had a bigger quarry. They had 800 men and women working. I'll show it to you on the way home. So very historic. If you're not into it, it's just a bunch of old pilings, but it's very, very historic. Mr. Butchart, the first year in 1904, shipped his cement, his powdered cement, in 350-pound barrels. That was problematic in 3 ways. It needed a cooper, a barrel maker. It needed lots of blocking on the barges because they would roll around. And the barrels didn't come back and they were expensive to make. So he switched to jute sacking in 1905, and people refused to accept his product because it wasn't Vancouver Portland cement in a barrel. The analogy I will use for you, if I had 2 French bottles of Merlot and one had a cork and one had a twist top, which would you perceive as the better wine? Precisely, the one that had the cork. Same wine barrel, but one with cork. So he had to visit all of his cement contractors. Took him about 6 or 7 months to convince them it was the same Portland, Vancouver cement from Butchart Gardens. And the following year, he invented the paper sack. And in Canada, at least, the measurement is still, the largest measurement you can buy is 87.5 pounds. Knowing that a laborer could work his 12-hour shift carrying just under 90 pounds all day long, whereas it took 2 laborers to move a 350-pound barrel. In the States, it's lower poundage than that. But you can't buy a bigger bag of cement in Canada. So he was a very inventive guy.
So he was the pioneer
Of our
paper
weight
bags
measure, of our paper bags here in Canada.
for cement.
Yep. Of course, most people buy their cement now from a ready mix already done, you know. But if you just had a small backyard project, you can buy smaller but not bigger.
So where is the cement being manufactured now?
Well, there are several plants. There's one in Granville Island, right in downtown Vancouver.
Really?
There's one on Texade Island, the largest mineral island in North America. And it's got inexhaustible limestone still available to it. And throughout your state, there's limestone in the cement plants all over. Yeah. There will never be a need not for cement. It's one of the most durable. Well, look at that.
Yeah.
109 years old, those, and they're in salt water.
Right.
But they switched to the gardens in about the late 40s, and here's the story. When Robert and Jenny had 2 grown daughters, when they decided to make this their final resting place, they were getting on. They were very successful, quite wealthy. They built the family home. You know it as the Green Dining Room today, with that lovely private lattice garden fence around her garden. When she died in 1950, we left that the same way as it was the day she died. You can't go in that garden, but you can look at it. And Jenny Jr. married a factory employee. His name was Harry Ross. They had one child, Ian Ross. The Ross Fountain's named after him. When Ian Ross was 21, his grandparents, for estate purposes, planning purpose, gifted him, willed him the property, the 130 acre. It was called Benvenuto Estate. He went off to fight in the Second World War, as most young Americans did, and Canadians. When he came back in 1946, he did 2 things. He renamed it the Butchart Gardens, and he instituted an admission charge of 25 cents. For the first 40 years, there was no charge to get in and see her gardens. Yes, she bought a cup of tea, maybe some seeds out of obligation from her little seeds, but they were losing money. So for the next 50 years, he put this on the market. After folks. When he died, his son Christopher Ross took over the property, and he died within 1 year of owning it. So since 2000, his sister, Robin Lee Clark, the great-granddaughter of the Butcharts, owns the property. Never left family hands. Quite a success story. For the Canadians on board, they all know about the Eatons. It was a large department store. Mr. Eaton willed the property to his 2 sons, and within 10 years they bankrupted the company, and it's only the brand name now, Eaton's. No more department store chain in Canada. Thank goodness this didn't happen here. 110 years in the same family. I'm not saying the family doesn't have some interesting history to it, which I won't talk about, but like all wealthy families or poor families, at 110-year history, you're going to have some skeleton closet.
Oh, come on.
But it's a delightful. And she's still working the gardens. She doesn't need to work, but she enjoys it. She has lunch with the staff.
Oh, the woman,
The current owner, Robin Lee Clark. Yep.
Does she have any heirs?
Yes, she does. She has a son, Barnabas. He's in his mid-40s. He works in administration, so we're very hopeful this will carry on.
Does he have, and then, no, I'm just asking about, does he have any heirs?
You know, they got married 2 years ago, so I don't know if they have children yet or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been associated with
This tour's been going 5 years. I've been here 4. We're seasonal workers. We don't run this past about October 1st.
This year it's going to be 145th year for the Sanctioned Fair.
Is it really 140? Wow, that's amazing. It's a great fair. We go every year. The grandchildren love it. Except their grandfather, moi, is a chicken. I won't go on any of the rides anymore. Funny how that clicks in at a certain age. I used to love them all. I can't even stand those little swings that go around. You know? Yes, and right now they're gravitating more towards our returning spawning rivers, such as Goldstream Park. So the early salmon runs will start coming back in late August, early September. We saw 2 bald eagles on a previous trip here. There's 2 families that live up in the forest here, big nests. They raise their young. But during the fall months, they'll go where the salmon is. They'll come back here in October because Todd Creek will have returning coho and chum salmon. And the black bears will come out of the forest here, out of the Gowland Park. You go down, for the locals, just walk down from Wallace Drive. Be aware, be bear aware. And you take a pair of running shoes when you're in bear country. And my friend, when we were fly fishing on Cowichan River, he said, "You can't outrun a bear. Why are you carrying running shoes?" And I said, "I don't have to, Vic. I just have to outrun you." It's an old one, sir, but usually somebody hasn't heard it. So
Now, is that point property part of the acreage?
the flagless flagpole house is on the property, but to the left of it, it's all private residences. We're going to go by what we affectionately call Millionaire Road on our way home. We're going to go and see if there's any seals on Seal Rock. Todd Inlet, it's on all the charts, but it's been renamed Gowland Todd Inlet.
Because of the park.
Because it's been turned into a provincial park. But all the navigation charts show it as Todd Inlet. We all call it Todd.
And what do they call where you're...
This is Butchart Cove. It's always been known as Butchart Cove since the family owned the foreshore. Brentwood Bay is a lovely seaside community, and it's part of the Saanich Peninsula. We have about 6 wineries in the Saanich Peninsula. We have an apple cidery called Sea Cider, looks right at Mount Baker. Very good cider. We also have a distillery on Old Saanich Road that makes Victoria gin. We grow our own grapes, kiwi fruit, lemons are being experimented in North Saanich up by the Chalet Winery. Farmers experimenting with lemons. Very. He has to put incandescent Christmas tree lights on to keep the frost off in the winter. But other than that. And speaking of frost, we golf all year round here. It's annoying to have to wear a sweater in the winter and wait maybe half an hour for the greens to be frost free, but we still golf.
That little round thing up on there.
That's the communications system for the Victoria International Airport. So the airport's to the left of that in what's called Pat Bay. To the right of it, you come left to right down at the Notch. That's the ferry terminus, Swartz Bay to Vancouver, to Wasson. To the right of it, over the top of this silver shed with the silver roof on it, is Seaside Sydney. Lovely little 9 bookstore town. 9 unique bookstores in it. And if you have time, go to the free museum there. It's by donation. It's its 100th anniversary this year. And you'll see the whole history of this area. How it got started. The First Nations, there are 4 families here. The largest one is right here, the Sartlet First Nation. They own this ceremonial burial island here, Sinonis Island or Sinonis. And there are 3 other families. And then on the other side, there's the Malahat, and I can't pronounce the other name. I'm sorry. I can never pronounce them. Some of them are very artistic, very enterprising. They've got good businesses. They have guiding and outfitting. And at one in Sydney, you can take a cultural tour in a dugout that holds 20 people. This was their hunting and foraging ground for thousands of years. Lots of old money in Victoria. From the early days of Fort Victoria in the mid-1800s, the Hudson's Bay Company, the largest fur trading company of its time, set up a fur trading post here and paid the First Nations to hunt the sea otters. And then laterally, it served as the 2 staging supply spots for the gold rushes, the Caribou and the Yukon Gold Rush.
Right out of this area?
Downtown Victoria, right on Government Street. Fort Victoria was there. And it was a very protected port because of the Esquimalt Harbor where it had its gunboats. And the reason I mention this, because you're from Oregon, you will remember the Oregon Treaty of 1843 when the Americans were establishing the 49th parallel. And the reason it goes instead of east to west when it hits the San Juan Islands and it jogs into Point Roberts is because we sat down at the treaty table, said you're not going to take over the colony of Vancouver Island on your way to Alaska, because you were going to annex Alaska. You ended up buying it from the Russians. But you were going to take, there's the seals, we'll talk about this in a minute. They blend in so well.
They sure do.
And I don't go any closer because I don't want to harass them.
Yeah, someone went in the water.
Yeah, they're the Carmen Harbor seal. When they're mature, they can hold their breath for 20 minutes and dive down as much as 500 feet. Last year, my co-captain Paul was coming along and he saw a large female seal with Bethers, the Mitchells. There would be multiple brothers in that family, all married, so they got combined 1,000 or so acres of land. They're still the original landowners, dating back over 165 years.
That was deeded by
The factor of Fort Victoria. He represented the colony, and he had the law. His word was the law in the 1800s.
and he was governed by the Queen, right?
Yes. Lots of new money in Victoria. We have over 800 high-tech firms. The incubator for all those tech firms was the University of Victoria, called Viatech. And now they've rebranded themselves to Techtoria. They have over 13,000 employees, and that's not the story. They're growing at 8% a year. In this economy, that's unheard of. They're looking for high-tech workers. Microsoft just set up here 2 months ago. Whenever they set up somewhere, that tells you something. It's like McDonald's setting up in a town. They do their homework. It'll eclipse our tourist industry by next year in terms of gross sales. A couple of billion, yep. It's huge. It's lifestyle. There are drawbacks to living in Victoria. You're on an island, so you're at the behest of the ferry system, or you can take a plane. But you can't go to a concert in Vancouver without staying overnight, because the last ferry is 9 o'clock. The first one's 7, right?
But it is a huge island. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, it's 400 miles long.
Yeah.
But there's only 750,000 of us live here. It's delightful.
It's delightful.
And the entire island.
Yep.
So there's about 400 in metropolitan Victoria.
400,000?
400,000.
No, sir. There's only 360,000 people in the Capital Regional District. That's made up of 13 municipalities.
That's not just Victoria.
No, there's 13 municipalities.
We had a very interesting at the Royal BC Museum yesterday. They had these maps and they superimposed Taiwan, which is like 23 million people, that small island, over, I think it was the island, which is, and I mean, like, there's 23 million people there. It's obscene.
About the same size, actually. If you,
Yeah, if you superimpose them. It was an amazing map.
Vancouver Island's the 4th largest island in the Pacific Ocean, with only 750,000 people on it.
Yeah.
The bulk of our population's on the mainland.
Yeah.
So why
4
is
million, yeah.
why is our capital for the province here in Victoria? Back to the story of the Oregon Treaty.
That's, yeah.
We moved it from the Fraser River, just outside of downtown Vancouver, reasoning that no foreign country would invade a capital city, especially our friends in the other colony called America. And it worked. Then we sat down at the treaty, redefined the 49th parallel. That's why it goes north when it hits the San Juan Islands and the Gulf Islands. And if you live in Point Roberts, that's U.S. territory, and you're a U.S. citizen, to get home you have to go through Canada. It's interesting.
Anyway, they did some very smart things for bears.
Yeah, they did. Anyhow, we're not supposed to talk politics or religion, but that wasn't really religion. That was geography. That was geography and history, right?
Wasn't that creative? Big war?
It had an element of that in it, yes, sir. Yeah, and of course we had fur trading forts on the Columbia River, just as you had them on. You know, it was one of those periods of times where you were out in the bush and you kind of did what you wanted to do. You know? I would have loved to have been living in the early 1800s and see all that change, and all. It would have been fascinating.
They have these amazing displays down at the Royal BC Museum. We were there yesterday. It's amazing about the fur trade, the maritime, and the coal. And
very rich history here, like the Dunsmuir Empire,
Yeah.
Dunsmuir coal.
And I mean, you just see because of the size of everything, you're walking into it. It's so realistic. It's fantastic.
That's a great museum.
It is.
I'm just going to ask everybody to remain seated until I safely fasten the boat to the dock. Thank you. The tour should be 3 hours. There's lots more I'd like to take you to and share with you, but unfortunately, we're 45 minutes is up. There's our other tour boat just going by now, the RP. But today, the English company, Portland Cement, is the biggest purveyor of cement products. That was a pretty good landing. You're allowed to clap.
Really soft. That was wonderful. Yay.
Just ask these people. They didn't enjoy it. Listen. And use the hand grip on your way out. Thank you for taking the tour, everybody.
You okay?
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
Great. Thanks so much.
Just go steady. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Welcome. Pleasure having you on board.
I wish it was a good food.